Good morning, and it is quite early morning. It's about 8:15 on the Ardmeanach peninsula of Mull. It's an early start because the thing that I'm going to see today, part of the path goes along the shore and it's not passable at high tide. Low tide this morning is in about 50 minutes. High tide is at just after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm using my trusty steed, the lean green biking machine, to get me along the shore to the end of this good track quickly so that I can get in, see this thing before the tide comes in. This peninsula sticking out up ahead is the name for it, I believe. Ardmeanach means middle headland, I've read somewhere, because when you look on the map at Mull, there's the north end that sticks out, there's the south end, the Ross of Mull, which sticks out to the west, and this one in the middle headland apparently. And at its very tip, about half of the western end of it is owned by the National Trust for Scotland. Oh, this is bumpy. And it's called the Burg. It's named after a farm that marks the end of this particular track. It's a very important site of national importance, this whole peninsula in fact, but especially the coastal areas, on account of the maritime cliffs it has. It's a triple SI because of its geology, because of its plant communities. It's a special protection area. It's on account of golden eagles, I believe, as well. So it's teeming with rare plant communities and precious wildlife. And the National Trust acquired it in 1932, which was only a year after the National Trust was founded. So it's one of the first properties that they acquired. Now the thing I'm off to see today, assuming the tide plays ball, is the fossil tree, a fossilised tree, which has been, the shape of it has been cast in the cliff edge, in the face of the cliff, by advancing lava flows. Oh, if I can just come to a halt using one brake on this very steep slope. There we go. Because this whole area is volcanic, formed by succession of lava flows, one on top of the other, each one about 15 meters thick, and they're sort of separated by, you get sort of a cliff, then a terrace, then a cliff, then a terrace, and that marks the boundary between each layer of lava. More about the geology when we get there. I'll save it for later. Plenty of these along the way. Old buildings that were, of course, once inhabited, and not so long ago. Not even 200 years ago. There were a few settlements along this stretch. I think one of them was called Culum or Salaki, the other one. Each, they had about sort of 19-20 buildings apiece. Lots of people lived here, and of course people cleared off the land in the mid-19th century to make way for sheep farming, which was more profitable. And the people who couldn't find something else to do or somewhere else to stay locally had no other option but to emigrate. It's not like now where you have to have lots of money and know people and accumulate points to get into Australia or Canada or America or whatnot. You just went, you just sent. You had no other option. And people were transported in their thousands across to the New World to make a new life for themselves, and they never saw home again. Right, here we are. This marks the start of the National Trust land on the headland says this 569 hectare estate was one of the first come into the care of the Natural Trust of Scotland. I did say that. But it was bequeathed by Mr. A. Campbell, Blair of Dolgelly in 1932. From here it's 2.5 miles to the fossil tree. The last little bit is on bike, and then the rest of it's on a sometimes steep and precarious path. But it's nice to have the bike to come this far, because it is a long way and it is a rough track, and my feet are a bit worse for wear these days, so it's a blessing to have the bike. Although I brought my bike with me for the whole 3 weeks that I'm away, a week in Sutherland, a week in Lochouch and a week in Mull. Today is actually the first day I've been able to use the bloody thing. There's been 1 or 2 days where it has been quite calm and sunny, but until today it's actually been really, really windy as well. So it's just been sat in the back of my car for 2.5 weeks waiting to be used, and this is perfect to gobble up the miles and get to the tree before the tide starts getting too high. But I've made quicker progress than I thought I would. Most of it's because most of it's downhill on the way, which means it's going to be horrendous coming up, but it doesn't matter if it takes longer going back, because by this point I'm back on the track, away from the shore, and the tide isn't an issue. So it's good for the quick, easy access to the tree. Onwards. It's easy to be lulled into a false sense of security coming along a path like this, but everything you read about this walk labours the fact that it's wild. It gets progressively wilder, rockier, more remote, and isn't a place to be taken lightly by any means. Plus, at the end, there's to get actually access to tree, there's a metal ladder that you have to climb down, and if you haven't got a head for heights, it's a bit of a challenge apparently. Oh look, another gorgeous sunny day on Mull. Well, this is the Burg. That's a bothy, one of the only remaining buildings that dates from the 1880s, I think. And the farm is up there. There were 20-something houses here. Again, it was cleared. People were cleared off the land. Black houses for the most part. These ones with really thick walls. The ones that, on some places on Mull and Skye, there are some that are now used as holiday cottages or museums. And they look like they've got really thick dry stone walls made of stone, with thick walls, and they'd have a thatched roof, which could be out of reeds or straw, I think, or some other material, but there was no chimney, and they'd have a central hearth, and the smoke would just sort of escape through the thatch roof. And you'd have the people would live at one end of the black house, and the animals, your livestock, would be at the other. I suppose that's if they weren't at the sheelings, at the summer grazing pastures on the hill. So I don't know how much further I can actually pedal. I'll see how far I can get before I put the bike aside somewhere. Such a beautiful day. It was a hard one to call for the forecasters. I suppose it may still change, but they had it as being a bit cloudy out here. But you can never really tell out on the coast. Oh, this looks like the end. Good place to leave it, at this fence. Feels weird to be walking. Oh, such a beautiful day. Well, good news is the tide is most definitely out. But it will now be coming in, so I'm not going to hang about. We can see how precarious this coastline is. Landslides. This one's not terribly recent because this has been flattened by people passing, but this is the third one I've come across just in this short stretch. So, with a bit of nervousness, walking underneath these rocks. Well, you can see now how much more rugged the coast is getting. It carries on all the way around. I mean, no roads come into this area here. Around the corner, it's locally called the Wilderness. These big steep cliffs that curve around to Loch na Keal. Very wild, very remote country. And after here, apparently it gets progressively more difficult, especially when the tide's in, and onward progress is all but impossible by the sounds of it. Very wild. Well, we're now starting to get the telltale signs of volcanic activity. There's these basalt columns, which is essentially just lava that's cooled, slowly cooled. There's plenty of these formations along the beach now, which tells me we're getting close. Now, superb feature over here, which I can't quite believe really, is you see the sort of basalt columns sticking out of a dark hole in the middle. That's where a tree, some 50-60 million years ago, was standing, and it was engulfed by a lava flow. And the tree, obviously being much cooler than the lava, cooled the lava from where it was in contact with it and drew the heat out of it, and the lava cools, contracts, and as it contracts it separates out and forms these strange columns, but they've radiated out from a central point. It's quite strange to see it fanning out like that. You used to see in basalt columns sort of vertically, so it's quite strange to see them horizontally like that, but it's a remarkable feature. And there's many more columns down here. Wonderful stuff. Look at these. Exactly the sort of thing you get over on Staffa and the Giant's Causeway in Antrim, and it's all part of the same period of volcanic activity. From this lofty vantage point, though, you can see how all the whole beach is just the tops of these hexagonal columns all interlocking together along this whole stretch. Well, I've just rounded this headland and everything just seems to be getting immense. It feels, it's got a real lost world sort of feel to it. You can see, just look at this waterfall cascading down the sea cliffs, which is coming all the way from up there. There's goats on the beach as well, and it's just impossibly rugged. Right, it seems to have reached the top of the ladder marked by this post. Suddenly I feel like I need the loo. There we go, nice rusty ladder to descend. Not for the faint of heart, I think. That'll be fine. I'll put you away for a moment. The words "use at your own risk" spring to mind. I'm sure there'll be a notice in many countries about this sort of thing. I mean, just look at these bolts. How rusty is this thing? It's gone green. Everything about this place is immense. Enormous volcanic cliffs. Quite incredible, but it is somewhere I think you have to earn just to get to it. This is awkward walking. But what about this? Not one, but two waterfalls tumbling over these volcanic cliffs, and semblance of a cave up here. Evidence of basalt columns here as well. We're almost there. It's just round the after the second waterfall. I've read, so funny that I didn't realise that TripAdvisor now you can comment on, you can review places. It's not just hotels or restaurants or that kind of thing. I had no idea, I just found it online yesterday that people review places now. So people were reviewing this walk, and there were lots of people saying some people gave up here. It was just too tough going and they gave up here without realising it's actually just a little way beyond. That'd be a shame, eh? Coming all this way only to turn back. And there's plenty of people as well saying, oh, I was disappointed with the tree, wasn't worth the effort. Makes you wonder why people step out the door in the morning. And all of a sudden we're here, although it might not be clear from here exactly what we're looking at. Well, this is it. This is the famous fossilised tree, and it's this level vertical thing that you can see here. It was found in 1819 by a chap called John McCulloch, and I don't know if before that if some brave adventurous people had been past here but just not actually realised what that was. But he was actually on a tour of Scotland, and he was well, a geological tour. He was studying Scotland's geology and acquiring evidence and cataloguing what Scotland had and finding amazing things, and this is one of the things he found by all accounts. It's like that one that's back there, the one where the basalt columns have radiated out. It was part of a forest between 50 and 60 million years ago. It's all part of the same volcanic activity that created the Coolin on Skye, Trottenish Peninsula, all that kind of thing. It's all that North America pulling away from Europe and putting great big stresses on the Earth's surface, such that when you pull something, it stretches and it splits open, and the surface of the Earth splits open, and magma, liquid rock that was below the ground, oozed out, not necessarily explosively, not like big volcanic explosions you see. I mean, just sort of a spurt, and then it spilled all over the landscape, over much of what is now Mull. I can well understand why some people might be disappointed when they get here, because they might be expecting something that looks like a tree, so a trunk, branches, maybe fossilised leaves, something that looks like a tree. But instead what people find is this, essentially this big long vertical shaft, which does have a definite sort of indentation into it. The curve, it does have the imprint of a trunk. But what of course has happened is that the lava flow has engulfed what used to be a forest here between 50 and 60 million years ago, and has encased a tree. I mean, it wouldn't have just happened to this one, it would have been a lot more, but this is the only one anyone's found, I suppose, along this stretch. Although I did read some of there are others, but certainly this is the notable one, the one that you can get access to. But as the lava would have surrounded this enormous great big tree, obviously it wouldn't have been intact and encased perfect in lava. It would have been incinerated, it would have been carbonized, turned to charcoal. But by that point it's already engulfed in lava, and the lava cooled quite quickly, and so what was left inside the lava was still there, so charcoal, and over time it's fossilized, and the remnants the remnants of the tree are still here, fossilised. This whole section here is something that's left, really, left of the tree. And there has been charcoal in here, I believe, although true to form, just like the Spar Cave on Skye, where they took they took stalactites and stalagmites from a very, very beautiful cave, just like there. Here also, Victorian explorers, tourists, adventurers took a lot of the charcoal that was here. So it's quite a depleted resource. It's been damaged. So obviously the focus these days is on just look at it, but don't take anything. But it is, I mean, it is big. It's a big, impressive thing, this, and you do have to come back to get the sort of the view from behind, because it is so big. It's about 12 meters high, got a good girth to it, so it's a proper big tree. It would have been a big old conifer tree, the kind and size that we just don't have here anymore. It looks like the sort of girth, thickness that you'd find in North America and California and places like that these days. We don't have those here anymore. Giant redwoods, that kind of thickness, you know, that kind of size of a tree. Really, really impressive. And like I say, I can see why people might be disappointed, but you can't sort of take this one thing in isolation. I mean, the whole experience of this coastline, the wild and beautiful, rugged coastline with these basalt columns, bizarre sculptures in the rock, the whole thing taken together, it really is quite incredible. And this is just, I suppose, the icing on the cake, really, to actually have the imprint of an ancient tree, and you can still see the remains, the sort of the fossilised remains at the bottom. I find it incredible. Right, much as it is a place I would like to linger, while I'm standing here, all I can hear is a lapping of water behind me, which does suggest that the tide is still coming in, so I should really at least make a move away from the tidal section. I'm quite happy just to linger a little bit longer along this this stretch, but I want to get out of this bit. It's just a shame. I haven't been here very long. I would never get bored of that. That's incredible. Real Lost World stuff. Just love it, because it's cascading off the basalt columns. You can see the water is actually falling onto and just cascading off these beautiful columns. It's lovely. I think this cross section here, more than any I've seen actually on the cliffs, really shows different lava flows. How you've got one at the bottom, by the looks of it, another one here. Looks like maybe there's a smaller one there, very, very distinct one here. See the basalt columns here, and then another one on top. All these lava flows on top of one another, and it runs all the way down the coast. It's amazing. Oh, here comes an eagle. It's a white-tailed eagle. It's got that distinctive fan-like tail. Now that I don't have to rush, because that's the last tidal section, I can just take my time and enjoy this lovely coastal walk.